Hey there. For this demo, we're going to be setting up another gallery space, but this one is going to accommodate images of different sizes with more irregular orientations. We're also going to create a gallery space that, in addition to accommodating 3D degrees of freedom like this, we can also export it in the future to use as a 6 degrees of freedom gallery, where you can actually really move around side to side and not just look around. All right, so let's just get right to it. So we're going to create a new file. So we'll create a new Blender file. Just select everything and delete it. You can see here my scene collection might be a little different than the default. The default, I have my own setup with custom folders for lights and cameras. You can just right click and add more collections into the outliner if you want to do that yourself, but it's not required for this demo. All right, so here is my folder. I got a couple different images in it. So the first thing I will do is I will go to Save As. I'll go to the desktop into this folder and save it as gallery, or I just wrote gal because I'm just rushing through this. So now we'll go to Shift A for add. We'll press the key Shift A for add. We'll go to image and mesh plane. And now we're right in the same folder because we just saved our file in there. Otherwise, we could just navigate to it. I will press A, just the letter A for select all, and import all my images as planes. Okay, so now I've clicked material preview, and it looks like it's just updating something. Here it is. Okay, so now we can see all our images here. Right off the bat, I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to delete it because I'm going to use that later as my material for my floor. But these pictures we want to keep together. Notice these have kind of random names and they're going to lose their naming, so that's why I didn't rename them for this. We'll have to name them again. So I'm going to take a look at these real quick. I want to give these a little more space from each other for reasons that will become apparent. So just to do a quick arrangement, you can see I've selected every other picture, and I'll just press G for grab, Y for Y-axis, and just kind of stagger them up to here. And then I'm going to move this one, GX, into the scene a little bit. And I also want this one to be bigger, so I'm just going to press S and scale that one up to a nice size. Move it away a little bit, give them some space. And now on this one, I'm going to press Control A and apply scale so that the scale is applied to that image. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do with these images is I'm going to actually press A for select all, and then I'm going to press Shift and select one of the images that's sort of in the middle. It's not actually that important, but I did it. And I'm going to press Control J. And you can see what that's done is it's turned all our objects into just one object. So this is just one thing. And this is just going to allow me to quickly make some edits and materials as one thing, and then I'm going to split them up again. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go to my modifiers. I'm going to add a modifier, search and add solidify, and I'll add a little thickness to these pictures because we're actually going to use these as objects this time. And then I'll go ahead and just press Control A or the little drop down and apply that modifier. Some versions of Blender 4.2 have this default add-on that gives you a slightly different modifier add-on, and there's a big check button to apply them if that's the case. So you can see that these look pretty good, but when we look at them from the side, they just look really weird. You can see they just kind of like are kind of transparent on the side. It doesn't really make sense. So here we're going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to press 3 for face select. And now I'm going to select one of these faces on the top, and I'm going to press Shift G for select similar, and I'm going to select coplanar. Now it's selected all the tops. Now that's a nice little tip, but if you don't want to use extra key commands, you can just hold down the Shift key and click all the faces either way. So now that I've clicked the top of this, I'm going to press Control I for select inverse. So now everything else is selected. I'm going to go to my material editor, and you can see that this single object has tons of materials in it already because it's got all the pictures, which is fine. So we have all this selected. I'm going to press plus to add a new slot. I'm going to hit assign. And now you can see, excuse me, the pictures are solid all around. Make sure I've got my mic set up properly. Yes. And then we'll just hit new. We'll give these a new material. I'm going to call it frames because we're going to make picture frames. And we'll just make this material metallic. Here, I'll turn it around so we can see it. We don't have to keep it selected. So there we have the material will be metallic. We can make them shiny. That's a little too shiny. So we'll set the roughness to like around 2. And maybe to make these frames look kind of, I don't know, I want them to look kind of coppery. So I'll give them this kind of reddish orange look to them. And we can see now they don't look that metallic yet because there's not that much else going on in the scene. So it's just hard to tell. So now that we've done that, let's give these more of a frame around them. So I want to select all of these edges, and I don't want to select the big faces. So the easiest way for me to accomplish that is I'm going to select this top face here, and then I'm also going to select the bottom, and then I'm going to press Shift G for select similar and select coplanar. So now we've selected all the tops and bottoms. Now, an important thing is we are in face select here. It'll be different in different modes. And now I can press Control I, and now you can see we've just selected the edges, but not the bottoms. I kind of wish I hadn't made this copper because it looks selected, but I assure you it is not. So now I'm going to press Option or Alt and E to get our special extrude menu. And I'm going to do extrude faces along normals. And you can see it's going to stretch these out into frames. Now, the only problem is you can see it's kind of filled the rest of the frame with more image stuff. So it's kind of got this weird transparent look to it. So, and that's the alpha channel of the image. It's not image stuff, but whatever. So that's actually pretty easy. We could select these little bits specifically, but because we want to select everything but the pictures, we're just going to go that route again. So now I'll just select all the pictures. I can't use that coplanar trick this time because that'll also select the fronts of the frame. Coplanar is sort of like 3-dimensional parallelism. Or no, it just means they're on the same 2D plane in 3D space. So I've got those selected and I'll press Control I again. So now I've got everything but the picture selected. I'll go down to my material called frames and hit assign. Now you can see our pictures have frames, but the frames are coplanar with the pictures, and that's a little weird. So we will fix that. So to do that, still in face select mode, I'm going to hold down the Option key and select this little line in the corner, and you can see that'll make a loop select. Now I'll hold Option and Shift, and we'll continue making a loop select around these images. All right, and there we go. And now I'm going to press E for extrude, just plain old E, and just bring that up a little bit. And that's good. I'm not gonna do anything else to them. We could make fancy frames, but I want to keep moving. So now that we've done that, we can separate these back out. So we're still in edit mode. I'm going to press A for select all. I'm going to press P for separate, and then I'm going to separate by loose parts. And now all the pictures are their own objects again. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to right click this selection. I'm going to do set origin to geometry. You can see they all get their origin points back in the middle now. And then they're called trip 3, trip 1. I think that's kind of a dumb name. So I'm going to search and I'm going to type rename. And here's this option batch rename. So I'm going to find TRP3 and replace it with art. And hit OK. So now these images are just named art. Another thing I can do, because I'm going to have a lot of assets in this scene, is while these are all selected, I'm going to go to the outliner here, and I'm going to press the letter M key once, and that allows me to move them all to a new collection. And I'm going to call the collection art. Okay, so now I have all my art assets in the art folder here, and I can hit this little checkbox and hide it. But first I'll just deselect them, and then I'll hide that and go back to my objects folder. So let's make our actual gallery. So I'm going to start with a cube. And I want the origin point here to be at the bottom. And an easy way to achieve that is I'm just going to press, I'm still in object mode. I'm just going to press G for grab, Z for Z axis, hold down the control key, whoops, hold down the control key so it snaps, snap it so it snaps to the floor, and then I'm going to press Control A and just apply all transformations, and you can see that origin point drops to the floor. Is it the only way to do it? Absolutely not, but it's just the way we're doing it now. So now let's try to get our basic size for this room. I'm going to go into edit mode. And I'm going to go to edit overlays and turn on edge length so I can see it. I'm going to stay in meters this time. So I'm going to resize this whole thing. And you can see it's resizing below the floor. And to fix that problem, I'm going to press the period key and I'm going to change our pivot point to 3D cursor. So now it's going to grow from the 3D cursor. So I'll hit scale and I'm going to scale this up until about a little less than 4 meters tall. That feels like a good height to me. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scale again. I'm going to do S and X and scale our room this way. And, you know, I'm going to give this room kind of not an L shape, but I'm going to shape it kind of like a Tetris piece. So I'm going to press Control R, which is loop select. Then I'm going to scroll up, and you can see that makes lots of loop cuts. I'm going to scroll up and down until I get just 2. Now I'm going to click, and you can see these are kind of moving all around. I want them to be centered. So to do that, I can either tap the trackpad with 2 fingers or right click, and it drops them right in the center. So there, we've got our loop cuts, and I'll press 3 for face select. Select this face right here and press E and extrude that out. So this will be the shape of our building. All right. And I could be more careful to make this side the same length. In fact, I think I will. Normally I wouldn't care, but the fact that this one is 3.55 and this one is 3.59 is bothering me. So I'll move that one back in just a little bit. So now it's like a perfect Tetris piece shaped house. Okay. I think I'm also going to just lift the ceiling a little higher. I like high ceilings. And now I'm going to, so I've got this whole ceiling selected here, top of my box, and I'm going to press F and just turn that into one face there. And that way it turns my face selection into kind of a nice edge selection, and I can press Control B and bevel that down so I can have kind of a cool vaulted ceiling for this space. So I'm going to go down a little bit, and then I'm going to scroll on the wheel, which will add geometry and turn in nerd modeling, you would call this a chamfer or chamfer, and this a fillet. And so yeah, we're just going to curve that bevel, and yeah, I think that looks good. So now we have this nice curvy top to our place. And I'm going to go ahead and select this face and right click and subdivide it twice. And I'm also going to do the same thing to this one. And because I just did it there, I can select that face and press Shift R to repeat the subdivision. And in the case of this one, I'm going to punch out 2 faces to make a doorway. And in the case of this one, I'm going to punch out just 1 face to make a window. But you know, I actually am not happy with this window size, so I'm going to do it a different way. So or am I going to do it a different way? Yes. What we're going to do is I'm going to select in edge mode. I'm going to select these edges, and I'm going to press G to grab, Z for Z axis, and move them up a little bit. And then I'm going to select all these edges here. This isn't the only way to do it, but I think it's a nice way to show another method. So I'm just selecting these horizontal lines, and I'll right click and subdivide. So it's just going to do 1 subdivision, so you can see it's cut them. And now I'm going to go ahead and select all 3 of these and delete the faces. So we have a nice big window on this side. We have a nice big doorway there. and now we can keep working. So sometimes I like to take the ceiling on and off. I'm going to do a skylight for this room, so I'm just going to select the ceiling and delete it so you can see right into our room. I think the open ceiling with the sort of Tetris shape room is going to be kind of cool. I am going to separate the floor though, so I'm going to grab this floor. I'm going to press Shift G and select coplanar, and then I'm going to press F to just turn it into one plane, and I'll press P for separate and just separate selection. So now in object mode, I want to select my main cube and call it room or gallery or house, and I'll select the other one and call it floor, so we know what we're working with. All right, so we'll do a little more architecture work and then we're going to just jump into it. So on this room here, I'm going to right click it, shade auto smooth, so our curved parts look nice and smooth. And I will add, whoops, not a material. I will add a solidify modifier. Give the building a little thickness. And then I will select the floor. So I'm going to go into edit mode on the floor, and I kind of need to see both at the same time. So I'm going to press Option Z for X-ray mode, maybe even go into wireframe or solid view. This is a little easier to see. And I want to, I'm not sure what that dot is there. That's kind of strange. So, oh, that's the face. So I'll select the, I forgot I was in X-ray mode. When you're in X-ray mode, the faces have little dots in them, so you know where to select. So I'm going to press Control R for loop select. And I don't love the way that that's working. So instead, I'm going to select each edge. Oh, I see what's going on. If I press 1, I can see I have 2 points here and just 1 point back there. So I want to balance that out. So I'm going to select this back edge, right click and choose subdivide. And then I'm going to just turn that up to 2. And now if I press in point mode, you can see those lines add up, which is going to be helpful. So I want to add, I'll just go into solid view now. I want to add kind of a baseboard. So I'll select my whole floor and I'll press I for inset and just kind of inset that in a little bit. And you can see, I love this because I added those 2 extra points at the other edge. When it insets, we have like a little flat zone ready. I'm actually realizing now I didn't really need to set those extra points. I just needed them at the doorway, but oh well, you live and learn. So I've insetted the floor, and now I'm going to press Option and select on this little diagonal here, which will loop select all the way around the floor. But I don't want this piece selected, so I'm going to press Control and just kind of box select over that piece to take it out. So now I've just gotten a selection that wraps around the floor, but not crossing through the doorway. And I'll press E for extrude, and I can extrude that up. And now I have a nice fancy baseboard going around my floor. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press 2 for edge select, and I'm going to press Option and select that edge, and you can see it loops all the way around. And now I'm going to press Control B and bevel that in. Let's zoom way in on that because we're going to go to our bevel setting here. Let's move my face. And right now it's 6 segments. You can see you can turn that up and down. I'm going to turn it all the way down for a moment. I'm going to go to custom and I'm going to choose crown molding. And now you can see as the segments go up, we kind of get this like classic molded profile at the top of our very thick baseboards. They're kind of over the top, but this is a fancy gallery, so we're going to keep those. All right, so modeling on the floor is good. Modeling on the space looks good. I guess we might put in a window frame, but don't have to worry about that just yet. So you can see there's like a little bit of a flicker situation going on because the floor kind of intersects with the gallery space a little bit, but I think it's not going to be an issue. If so, we can fix it, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. All right, so now let's put our images on the wall. So we can turn on our art. And I'm going to hide our objects for a second and press A to select all the art. And that'll bring our objects back. And I'm going to press G for grab, Z for Z axis, and just bring our art all right up here. And we'll go into material view. Rotate this on the X axis 90 degrees. Whoa. That was a crazy rotation, and that's because I forgot to set my pivot point back to the default. So I'm going to press period, set my pivot point back to median, and now when I rotate, it should rotate right where it is. Great. Okay, so I've got my artwork here, and I'm going to choose where this stuff is going to go. And I might even choose not to include it all in this gallery. We'll see. So these three pictures here are actually kind of like a little series. They go together. So I'm going to isolate just those and just set these up as one object. So to do that, first I'm going to press Option G, which resets their position. So all of them are just right in the same place now. And now I'm going to take this one and press G and X. And I'm looking at the number, and I'm actually just going to press 1 minus. So I'm going to move it by -1. And then I'm going to select the other one. Nope. GX1. And now the pictures are evenly spaced in the right order, but I kind of want them to be closer to each other. So I'm going to select both of these pictures. I'm in object mode. I'm going to press spacebar and choose this option push pull. And you can see that just kind of pushes them together and pulls them apart. And because you can see when I get really close, this is like one continuous image. I want these to be really close, just like a tiny gap between them because they're really one piece. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the middle image. So I've got them all selected, but the middle image is my active, yellow in the middle, red on the sides. I can press Shift again to change the active, but I want it in the middle. I'll press Control J, and now they're all just joined as one object as a triptych, which will just make it easier to arrange these. All right, so I'll press / again to unisolate these images. And now I'm going to start to set this up. So there's a few ways to do this. One way that can work is to actually use automatic snapping, but I actually think it works a little better to do it manually. So I'm going to go ahead and select my room. I'm going to select this wall right here, and I'm going to hit spacebar and type cursor. And here we have the option cursor to active. Our cursor moves right there. And now I'm going to select this picture, right click on it, snap selection to cursor. And there it is. It's right in the right place in the gallery, but it's not in the right orientation. So I'm going to press R for rotate, Z for Z axis, 180. And then I'm going to press G for grab, G for grab, and Y for Y axis, and bring it back into the space. There we go. Those pictures look pretty good. So now I'm just going to get pictures in their positions, and then I will rotate them accordingly. So here, back in scene, I'll select this face, cursor to active, and now I'll put this one with the frogs there, snap selection to cursor, select this again, I'll select this face. You can see it keeps my last search when I hit spacebar. Now I'll go back to object. Actually, I'm going to leave that one blank. Cursor to active. And now I'll move this one there. Snap selection to cursor. There it is. You can see because my wall is evenly divided, it's really easy to get my places here. Q. Oh, sorry, spacebar, cursor to active. Snap selection to cursor. All right, and now I can go ahead and turn these. So if I just rotate these, you can see they rotate around each other. But if I press I and switch my pivot point, so not I, I'm sorry, I always say that. If I press period and set my pivot point to individual origins, I can rotate these on the z-axis and they rotate independently. So I can do 180 for both. And then I can press G and Y and bring these in a little bit. I think if we, let me just see if this works. Nope, mind. All right, so we've got those in place. This one, move that into the scene a little bit. Now the reason they're kind of snapping into the walls, this is interesting. This one kind of looks off center, but I'm just going to recenter it manually. So I'm going to rotate this, bring it into the scene, and then just center it manually. And there we go. We've got our pictures. So we might want to rearrange these just a little bit. So I'll press this one, I'll slide it in a little bit, just kind of get it where I like the way it looks better. I kind of want all these size frames to be bigger. So I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to press I again and make sure I have individual origins selected, and press S, and all those pictures will scale. If you don't have individual origins selected, if you're in the default, you'll see they just kind of fly out of the gallery. Make this one a little bigger. I'm sizing this one on its own because it doesn't have a custom size. And this one a little bigger too. So now we've got a couple different size images. We've got our window looking out. Things are looking pretty good. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to press Shift-C to set my cursor back to its default position. I'm going to press period, make sure my pivot point is set back to the default. And now you can see if I go into render view, the scene is really dark and sad. And that's because it doesn't have any lights in it yet. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just create a skybox because we have this nice skylight. So I'll create a world, or I'll use the world tab, and I'll click on the color here and just choose this option, sky texture. And you can see there's lots of options here, and you can see we can kind of see a sky all around us. We get this nice light filling the space. I'm actually going to go to sun elevation and bring that way down, kind of like sunset. Looks nice. It also makes the space a little darker. And I'm also going to go to strength and lower that a little so our space is not so bright, because I want to add lights too. And if you're concerned, we are almost done. So before we add lights, I'm going to take care of my floor. So I'm going to press tab and I'm going to press /. So I'm just looking at the floor. Now I'm going to look, I don't have any materials here, so I'll add one new material for the space. And then I'm going to press 3. I'm going to select this big face in the middle. So 3 for face select. I'm also going to select that little bit going out. And I will make a new slot and assign it. And for that one, I'm going to look down here and find that picture I brought in the beginning called block pattern. And there it is. And yeah, it looks perfect. No, it doesn't. It looks terrible. So we got two problems. One, it's just really big. Also, it's kind of stretched and distorted here. And that's because when we extruded this section out, it did not give it an automatic UV map. UV map refers to how the image wraps around the structure. So to alter that, we can go to UV editing and scroll out a little bit here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hover over this. If you don't see anything here, you press Z and go to material preview. Whoops, Z material preview. I'm going to just hover over this selection, press the letter U, and choose the option unwrap, which cleans up the edit quite a bit. It's now not distorting the image. And now here on the UV editor side, I'm going to press A to select all, and I'm just going to scale this way up because I want these to be tiles. So I'm just going to scale this until it's the size tile I want. And that looks great. So having done that, I'm going to go to shading. And here is my material for the floor. And you can see we just have that one tile there. And that's because this is set to single image. No, sorry, it's set to, I always forget to do this. Oh yeah, so here where it's set to clip, we're gonna change that to repeat. And now we've got a nice tile floor. The only thing about our tile floor is you can see if I zoom in on it, that it just looks like a photo. It doesn't really look like real tiles. And there is a lot I can do about that. I don't have time to do so much about it, so I want to keep this short, but something I will do is we have this roughness setting here, so you can see if that's all the way up, the floor is really matte. If it's all the way down, the floor is really shiny. But what we can do that's kind of neat is we can take, so we don't even need an alpha channel. I'll break that out. So you can leave it alone too. I'm just trying to simplify things. I can take this color channel and I can actually put it into the roughness. And now we have this cool effect where the black parts are shiny, but not the white parts, which I think gives it kind of a cool look. And could we do more to kind of give like a normal map to give the squares like a little bit of three-dimensionality to them? We totally could, but we want to keep moving. So now we'll go back to layout. And here's our space. We got our nice floor. We're in render view right now. We're able to move around easily because we're just using Eevee to look around. So this looks great, but let's add some lights. So I'm going to go to my lights tab here because I like to add them in here, but you don't have to do that. I'll press Shift A and I will add a point light. And I press G and Z and move that up. And I'm going to change this light. So I'll go to the light settings to a spot. I don't know why we're not seeing any effect for it. Oh, because it's really weak. So I'll change the power on it to 300 watts. So now we got a nice spot on the floor. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. I'm going to increase the blend. So it's nice soft spotlight. And now here we have this little icon. I could just point it at the picture by just like rotating the light around. I find that that's really tricky. The other thing is if I move the pictures, then I have to move the lights again. So I want to set these lights to auto track to the pictures. So I'm going to go down here on this tab for constraints. It looks like a bike chain. And I'm going to add this constraint called track 2. I'm not going to do anything with it yet. I'm going to actually rename this light up here to spot because that's what it is. So I've got that ready to go, but now let's see, how many works of art do we have to illuminate here? One. This one will probably take 2 lights, so we'll call it 2, even though it's 3 pictures. 4, 5, 6. So we want to have 6 lights total. So I'm going to press Shift D, and I want to keep this one right in the same place. So I'll just right click to drop it in the same place, or double finger click on the trackpad. And then I'm going to just do repeat. So I'll press Shift R, Shift R, Shift R, Shift R. So now we have 6 total lights. This one here, I'm going to move it back a little. So I'll press G and Y. We'll move that one back to about here. And yes, these lights are kind of nonsensical. In fact, maybe that's a problem. We'll make these lights make sense. No, we're just going to keep them nonsensical right now. It will probably make more sense to have the lights come from these corners or something, so they're shining from somewhere. But I just want to keep going. So now I'm going to click the first light, and I'm going to go to this constraint. I'm going to do this little dropper on track 2 and select my first picture. And now it's pointed there. And the beauty of it is you can see if I changed my picture, the light is going to follow it forever and ever until that constraint is removed. So that's great. This one is going to be a little tricky because it might need 2 lights, and also it's going to track both of them to the middle, so we're going to have to affect that, but we'll get there. So we've got this triptych here. We'll go to our next spot, track 2. There we go. Our next spot, we'll just do this with one spot actually, so we'll just get rid of some of them. Track 2, right there. Our next light, track 2, right there. And then this light over here, track 2 here. So now we've got spots on all our pieces. We still have one shining on the floor, but I'll take care of that in a minute. So if you want to select specific lights, you can either just select them in the scene collection, or you can even, the origin for these lights is all in the same place, but if you select on the little line going out of it, you can get out of it a bit. So for this one, I'm going to see if I can alter it a little bit. I'll go to the light settings and I will make this one bigger. I think that covers it. We'll go with that. And I'll go to the first one and the third light. So I'm selecting both of those. I'm actually going to make them a little smaller. Oh, whoops, I didn't select both. I'll select that one, make it a little smaller. I'll select this one, make that one. Whoops, wrong light. Make that one smaller. This one will also be smaller. And because it's closer to the picture, I'm going to turn the power down on that one a little bit too. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I was going to put 2 spots on one of them, but I'm not going to. So I'm just going to delete that spot. I guess it's a little weird to look into your space and just see like emptiness outside. So we will just add a generic floor out there. I'll press Shift A, add a plane mesh, S for scale 20, scale it 20 times. So now there's something out there. If it's clipping with the floor, you can grab it and bring it a little lower. Clipping kind of means when they overlap in an awkward way. I'm not going to bother putting a texture on the whatchamacallit, on the walls of the gallery right now, but just so we can see that it looks different, I will add a material to the floor outside, and I'll make it kind of this greenish color. And then I see that this has no material, which could be an issue for exporting it in the future, so I will just add a default material. So there we go. This space is totally done, and we can place a VR camera in the middle and render it out, or we can export this as a space to go around. I know I just said it was done, but one little thing, I'm noticing the light is kind of going behind these pictures. So I'm going to tweak those because they weren't quite touching the wall. That looks better. Or that might actually just be an Eevee rendering thing. I am going to add a bevel to these picture frames because they look kind of unreal to me. So I'll click this picture frame here. I'll go to modifiers and I will add a bevel modifier to it. I'll take the amount and scroll that to be kind of subtle. And I'll set the segments to 3. And I'll right click and do shade auto smooth. So now those frames look a little more even. And then in my collection, I'm going to select, I'm going to press Shift and select everything in art, and then Shift select this frame again. And you know what? I'm actually going to select the room too. Select the frame last, and then I'll press the one that I did the modifier on, and then I'll press Control L and copy modifiers. And now everything has a nice bevel to it. And now it really is finished.